The candles flickered as if breathing, their flames bending toward the caretaker like they were drawn to him. The long wooden table felt warm beneath my trembling hands, almost feverish. The people seated beside me stared straight ahead, their faces slack and hollow, their eyes glassy with resignation. None of them blinked. The caretaker tapped the table once with his long finger. Silence fell. "Welcome to group," he said. "We begin with sharing." A man across from me slowly raised his hand. His movements were stiff, mechanical. He stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "My name is Aaron," he said. "I tried to leave 3 times. The road kept bringing me back. The motel kept finding me. I stopped running 2 years ago." He pulled up his sleeve. The 7-shaped scar on his wrist pulsed faintly, glowing like an ember. The caretaker nodded approvingly. "Thank you for your honesty." Aaron sat back down. The woman beside him stood next. "My name is Lila," she said. "I thought the forest was cursed. I thought the caretaker was a demon. I thought I could outsmart it. I was wrong." She lifted her hair from the back of her neck. There was a door-shaped scar there. Small. Perfectly outlined. The knocking started again. 3 taps. 3 more. From beneath the floorboards. From inside the walls. From inside the candles. The caretaker leaned forward and folded his hands. "Now it is your turn." Every face turned toward me. My throat tightened. "I am not like you," I whispered. "I am not staying." The caretaker smiled gently. "That is what you said last time, too." "Last time," I said. Memories surged into my mind like a flood. I saw myself sitting at this same table years ago. I saw myself screaming, begging, running. I saw myself standing beside the caretaker, smiling at new arrivals. "No, no, no," I whispered. "You have been here longer than any of them," he said softly. "You just keep forgetting." The table began to vibrate. The candles melted faster, their wax pooling like blood. "We need to remind you who you are," the caretaker said. The room stretched. The walls peeled away like wet paper. We stood in a vast cavern lit by hundreds of flickering lanterns. In the center was a massive stone altar carved with symbols that hurt my eyes to look at. Roots grew through the floor and walls, pulsing slowly like veins. Figures stood around the altar wearing hooded cloaks made of stitched-together motel curtains. The knocking became deafening. 3 taps, 3 more. From the altar, from the roots, from inside my skull. The caretaker led me forward. This is where it began. He placed his hand on my chest. The knocking inside me stopped. I screamed. The cavern dissolved into firelight and chanting voices. I saw a younger version of myself standing in a circle of people deep in the Appalachian woods. We held lanterns. We wore fear on our faces. The forest was sick, a voice said. It is hungry. We need a keeper, another voice said. They all turned to me. No, I whispered. You volunteered, the caretaker said. The chanting grew louder. The roots burst from the ground, wrapping around my legs, my arms, my throat. I felt the forest enter me. I felt the road fold into my bones. I felt doors grow inside my chest. The memory ended. I collapsed to my knees in the cavern. The caretaker knelt in front of me. You are not a victim, he said. You are my replacement. I shook my head violently. I am not you. You are becoming me, he replied. The hooded figures began to chant again. Room 7, room 7, room 7. The altar split open. A dark doorway yawned beneath it. The knocking came from inside. 3 taps, 3 more. The caretaker took my hand. Time to finish the ritual. I tore my hand free and ran. The cavern twisted into a forest again. I ran through rain and roots and shadows. I burst into another motel lobby. This one was different. Bright, modern. A digital sign read Mountain View Suites. Families sat on couches scrolling on their phones. Children laughed. A front desk clerk smiled.
inside, panting. "Help me," I whispered. The clerk frowned. "Sir, are you all right?" The knocking inside my chest was gone. Relief surged through me again. "Yes," I whispered. "I think I am safe." The clerk handed me a room keycard. Room 7. My blood froze. The light flickered. The families vanished. The walls darkened. The caretaker stood behind the desk wearing the clerk's face. "You almost made it," he said. The ritual circle appeared around me. The floor split open. Roots grabbed my legs. The knocking returned. 3 taps, 3 more. Inside my heart. Inside the building. Inside the world. "You cannot outrun what you agreed to become," the caretaker whispered. The walls leaned inward. The ceiling lowered. The doors vanished. The road vanished. There was only the room. Only the ritual. Only me. And I finally understood. The motel was not a place. It was a body. And I was its beating heart.
The forest leaned closer with a low, creaking sound, like old bones shifting beneath heavy weight. The ground beneath my feet rippled, as if something enormous was moving just below the surface. Hands reached up through the mud, their fingers grasping at my ankles, my calves, my knees. I stumbled backward, falling hard onto the wet gravel of the motel lot. The Pine Ridge sign flickered overhead. Vacancy. Always vacancy. I kicked and screamed, tearing my legs free from the grasping hands. My palms scraped against the gravel as I crawled backward toward the office door. The caretaker watched me from beneath the porch light, his borrowed face calm and patient. "You are remembering now," he said. "Remembering what?" I cried. "The truth," he replied. The door behind him opened on its own. Inside the lobby, dozens of pale faces pressed against the walls from the inside, their features distorted as if they were trapped beneath stretched skin. Their mouths opened and closed in silent screams, their hands pushed outward, bulging the wood paneling like something alive. "You were never a visitor," the caretaker said. "You were always part of the building." He stepped aside. "Go inside," he said gently. I scrambled to my feet and ran past him into the forest instead. The trees closed in around me, their branches clawing at my clothes, my hair, my skin. The rain turned to a cold mist that soaked through me instantly. I ran until my lungs burned and my vision blurred. I burst out onto another road. Headlights appeared in the distance. A real car. A real person. I waved my arms wildly, screaming for help. The car slowed and pulled onto the shoulder. A middle-aged man stepped out, holding an umbrella. "Are you okay?" he asked. I ran to him, sobbing with relief. "You have to get me out of here," I said. "That place is not real. None of this is real." He frowned. "What place?" "The motel," I said. "Pine Ridge." His face drained of color. "You should not say that name out loud," he whispered. The knocking started again. From inside his chest, he clutched at his heart, gasping. 3 taps, 3 more. His eyes rolled back as he collapsed to his knees. "No, no, no," I cried, grabbing his shoulders. His mouth opened. The caretaker's voice came out. "Thank you for bringing me a guest," he said. The man's body went limp. The road twisted. The headlights went out. The forest swallowed everything. I ran again. I ran until I could not feel my legs. I ran until my thoughts dissolved into pure panic. I burst out into a clearing filled with old wooden cabins. A faded sign read Appalachian Retreat Center. Lanterns glowed softly along a dirt path. It looked peaceful, safe. Voices drifted through the trees. Laughter, conversation, music. I stumbled toward the sound. People sat around a large fire pit, wrapped in blankets, drinking from mugs. They looked normal, alive, warm. A woman noticed me and rushed over. "Oh my God, are you okay?" she asked. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing. They brought me to one of the cabins, wrapped me in dry blankets, gave me hot tea. I told them everything, about the motel, the caretaker, the knocking, the endless roads. They listened in silence. When I finished, the woman smiled gently. "You are safe here," she said. "We have all been where you are." My heart sank. "What do you mean?" I whispered. She pulled back her sleeve. On her wrist was a faint scar shaped like a 7. All around me, people rolled up their sleeves. Every single one of them bore the same mark. The knocking started again. 3 taps, 3 more. From inside the cabin walls, the fire outside went out. The lanterns flickered. The woman's smile widened too far. "Welcome to the retreat," she said. "This is where people come when they are tired of running." The walls began to breathe. The floor softened beneath my feet. The windows darkened. The caretaker's voice echoed from the ceiling. "Group therapy starts now." The cabin doors slammed shut. The knocking grew louder. 3 taps,
3 more, from every direction, I screamed.
The knocking inside my chest grew louder with every breath I took. 3 slow thuds. 3 more. My heartbeat twisted into an alien rhythm that no longer felt like my own. I pressed my hands against my ribs as if I could hold my heart in place, as if I could stop whatever had begun to wake inside me. The rain fell harder. The blue Hollow Lodge sign flickered at the edge of the road, its pale letters bleeding into the fog. My legs moved on their own, dragging me forward through thick mud toward the gravel lot. Each step felt heavier than the last, like something invisible was clinging to my back, whispering encouragement in a voice that was not mine. "Do not go in," the wall voice pleaded faintly in my head. "You have no other choice," the caretaker replied, just as softly. The lodge looked newer than the others, fresh paint, clean windows, a neat row of shrubs lining the walkway. It should have felt comforting. Instead, it felt like standing in front of a mouth that was pretending to smile. The office door was already open. Warm yellow light spilled out into the rain. A bell chimed as I stepped inside. The lobby smelled like pine cleaner and something faintly sweet beneath it. The walls were decorated with framed photographs of mountain landscapes. A coffee machine gurgled softly on a side table. Behind the counter stood a young man. He was normal. Too normal. He smiled politely. "Welcome to Blue Hollow Lodge. How can I help you tonight?" I stared at him, my mind struggling to process the sight. "Where is he?" I whispered. "Who, sir?" "The caretaker." The young man frowned slightly. "We do not have a caretaker here. Just me. Name is Daniel. You look like you have had a rough night." My knees buckled and I had to grip the counter to stay standing. "This is not real," I whispered. Daniel's smile faltered. "Sir, are you feeling all right?" The knocking inside my chest stopped. The silence was worse. Relief flooded through me so suddenly it made me dizzy. I laughed weakly. "I am sorry. I thought this place was something else." He nodded sympathetically. "Happens more than you think. You want a room? We have vacancies." The word vacancy made my stomach twist, but I forced myself to nod. "Room 12, he said, sliding a plastic key card across the counter. No brass key. No number 7. I took it with shaking fingers. The hallway was bright and clean. The carpet was soft beneath my shoes. The doors were solid wood with shiny metal numbers. Everything felt painfully normal. Room 12 opened into a warm, tidy space, a clean bed, a small television, a bathroom that smelled faintly of bleach. Curtains covered the window. I locked the door and leaned against it, laughing and crying at the same time. "You are safe," I whispered. I took a shower, scrubbing my skin raw as if I could wash away the night. I changed into dry clothes from my bag. I lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling, listening to the gentle hum of the air conditioner. Sleep came fast. Too fast. I dreamed of rain falling upward. I dreamed of doors opening one by one. I dreamed of a young man behind a counter, his smile stretching wider and wider until it tore his face apart. I woke up to knocking. 3 taps. 3 more. My eyes flew open. The room was dark. The air conditioner was silent. The curtains were gone. Moonlight spilled across the floor from an uncovered window. Outside, the forest pressed close, its branches tapping softly against the glass. The knocking came again, from inside the bathroom. My throat tightened. "Daniel," I called out. No answer. The bathroom door creaked open. The light flickered on by itself. The mirror above the sink was fogged over, as if someone had just taken a hot shower. A message appeared in the steam. "Welcome home." The knocking started again, from inside the mirror. A crack formed down the center of the glass. My reflection smiled at me. Not my smile. It raised a hand. I backed away, tripping over the edge of the bed. "No, no, no, no," I whispered. The crack spread, branching outward like a spider web. A pale finger pushed through from the other side, breaking the glass with a sharp pop. Another finger followed, then a hand, then an arm. My reflection climbed out of the mirror. It was me, but wrong. Its skin was gray and sagging, its eyes were hollow and black, its mouth hung open in a silent scream. "You stayed," it said in my voice. The door behind me slammed open. The hallway was no longer clean. The carpet was soaked with water and something dark. The walls were stained and peeling. The lights flickered weakly. The caretaker stood at the end of the hall, but now he was wearing Daniel's face. "You always feel safe right before you are not," he said gently. I ran. The hallway stretched impossibly long, the doors blurring together as I passed them. The knocking echoed all around me, inside the walls, inside the floors, inside my own skull. 3 taps. 3 more. I burst through a door at random and stumbled into cold night air. I was back outside, but it was not Blue Hollow Lodge anymore. It was Pine Ridge Motel. The same flickering sign, the same gravel lot, the same fog. The office light glowed. The caretaker waited at the door. "You are getting closer to understanding," he said. "Understanding what?" I screamed. "That there is no road out," he replied. "Only deeper in." The knocking inside my chest returned. 3 taps. 3 more. My phone buzzed. A new message. Part 6 complete. Room 7 is ready. Breakfast is at 6. The forest began to move. Trees leaned inward. The ground split open. Hands reached up. And I finally understood. I had never really left the motel the first time. I had only been dreaming of roads.
The handprints on the windshield slid downward slowly, leaving behind faint streaks of moisture that looked too dark to be just water. My body refused to move, every muscle locked in place as the whisper from the back seat curled around my ears like cold breath. "Welcome home." I turned my head inch by inch, my neck stiff with terror. The back seat was empty. The fog outside pressed close against the windows, so thick it looked solid, like a white wall sealing me inside the car. The knocking continued. 3 taps. 3 more. It came from the roof now, directly above my head, as if something were crouched there, testing the metal with careful fingers. My phone buzzed again in my shaking hand. A new message appeared. "You already stopped once. We saved you a room." The engine key was still in the ignition. I twisted it, praying for the sound of life. The starter clicked weakly. Once. Twice. The whisper faded into the damp air, leaving behind a silence so heavy it pressed against my ears. I stood there trembling beneath the swaying bulb, staring down the endless stone corridor. The doors stretched farther than they should have, curving slightly, as if the hallway itself were bending away from reality. Each door bore a faded brass number, scratched and dented, as if they had been clawed at by desperate hands. The knocking continued.
3 taps. 3 more. It came from behind every door at once.
The darkness swallowed the lobby in an instant, so complete it felt like a physical thing pressing against my eyes. The old man's smile lingered in my mind, even after I could no longer see him. The knocking echoed through the building, slow and deliberate, as if something was testing every wall, every door, searching for a way in. I reached out behind me, my fingers brushing the door handle. It did not move. I pulled harder. Locked. The knocking grew louder. From the left wall first. 3 slow taps. Then from the right. Then from behind the counter. The sounds surrounded me, closing in. Each set of taps slightly closer than the last. "What is this place?" I whispered. The old man's voice came from the darkness. Closer now. "This is a way station," he said. "A place between where you are going and where you belong." I took a step back and felt my heel strike something solid. I stumbled and nearly fell. My hand brushed against a low table that had not been there before. The air felt colder, thick with a damp metallic smell that made my stomach turn. "Why me?" I said. He chuckled softly. "You came back." A pale light flickered to life at the far end of the lobby. One of the hallway bulbs. It buzzed weakly, casting long shadows that stretched across the floor like grasping arms. In that dim light, I saw the old man standing behind the counter again, exactly where he had been before. But now I could see what the darkness had hidden. His shadow did not match his body. It was too tall, too thin. Its head brushed the ceiling. Its arms hung nearly to the floor. When he shifted his weight, the shadow stayed still. I backed away, my heart pounding in my ears. I ran for the hallway. The light flickered as I passed under it, and I heard a wet sound behind me, like something being dragged across tile. I did not look back. I ran past room 1, room 2. The numbers on the doors were crooked, some of them scratched over and replaced with different ones. 7 loomed at the end of the hall. The knocking came from inside it. I skidded to a stop in front of the door, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The brass key in my pocket felt heavy, like it was burning into my leg. "Do not open it," the voice from the wall whispered again. Louder now. Closer. The hallway lights went out behind me. Something exhaled at the back of my neck. I fumbled for the key, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The exhale turned into a slow, wet breathing sound.
I could feel it against my skin, cold and damp. I shoved the key into the lock and turned it. The door swung open. I fell inside and slammed it shut behind me, throwing the deadbolt into place. The room was exactly the same as it had been 3 years ago. Same faded bedspread. Same sagging mattress. Same uncovered window looking out into the black forest. The knocking started again. From inside the wall behind the bed. 3 taps. 3 more. "You should not have come back," the voice said. I sank to the floor, pressing my back against the door. Tears blurred my vision. "What do you want from me?" The wall bulged outward. A hand pressed against it from the inside, stretching the old wallpaper thin. The fingers were too long. The joints bent at the wrong angles. "Help us," the voice said. "There are so many of us." The wallpaper tore. A pale arm pushed through. Skin stretched tight over bone. Veins dark and swollen beneath the surface. Another arm followed. Then a head. A face emerged from the wall. Its features sunken and wrong. Its eyes milky and blind. Its mouth opened wider than it should have been able to. A black hole lined with broken teeth. I screamed and scrambled backward, climbing onto the bed. The thing dragged itself fully into the room, leaving a ragged hole in the wall that opened into a dark, empty space. More faces pressed forward from that darkness. More hands. Dozens of them. Clawing and reaching. They were all whispering at once. "Help us. Do not let him keep us here. He feeds on the ones who come back." The door behind me began to shake. The deadbolt rattled as something heavy slammed against it from the hallway. I looked back in time to see the wood splinter. Long cracks sprang outward from the lock. The thing on the floor turned its blind eyes toward the door. Its mouth stretched into something like a grin. "He is here," it said. The door burst inward. The old man stepped into the room. His body twisted and wrong in the flickering light. His limbs were too long now. His back hunched low. His head tilted at an unnatural angle. His eyes glowed faintly yellow. His shadow filled the entire wall behind him, towering over the room like a massive insect. "You should not listen to them," he said gently. "They are confused. They forget their purpose." The things calling out of the wall began to wail. He raised one long finger and pointed at me. "You belong here now." I grabbed the only thing within reach, the motel lamp, and hurled it at his head. It passed straight through him like he was made of smoke, smashing against a wall behind him. He laughed. The room tilted. The floor dropped away beneath my feet. I fell into darkness. I woke up lying on cold concrete. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling above me, swaying slowly. The air was thick with the smell of rot and damp earth. I pushed myself up and realized I was in a long, narrow room lined with doors on both sides. The walls were raw stone. The floor was wet. The doors were numbered. 7, 8, 9, 10. They stretched off into darkness. From behind each door came the sound of breathing and knocking. 3 taps. 3 more. A voice whispered behind me, "Welcome home."
The doorknob turned slowly, as if whoever stood on the other side was savoring the moment. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, my heart beating so hard it made my vision blur at the edges. The whisper from the wall still echoed in my ears. "Do not open the door." My hand trembled as I reached for the lamp on the nightstand, but I did not turn it on. Something deep inside me knew that light would not make this better. It would only make it clearer. The knob stopped turning. For several long seconds, there was only the sound of rain and my own breathing. Then came a soft scraping sound, like fingernails being dragged across old wood. It moved from the knob down the door, slow and deliberate. My stomach clenched as the sound reached the floor, then faded away. Footsteps followed, slow, dragging. They moved past my room and down the hallway, growing quieter with each step. I waited a full minute before I dared to move. My legs felt weak as I crept to the door and pressed my ear against it. Silence. No breathing. No footsteps. Just rain and the distant murmur of thunder. I backed away and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to steady my shaking hands. The voice from the wall replayed in my mind. It had sounded human, terrified, not like a prank or a joke. Whoever or whatever had spoken to me had known something dangerous. I leaned toward the wall again. "Hello," I whispered. There was no answer. For a moment I wondered if I had imagined it all. Exhaustion could do strange things to the mind. But the scrape marks on the inside of the door were real. 3 thin lines in the faded paint, low enough that I would not have noticed them before. I did not sleep again. When morning finally came, it arrived as a dull gray light seeping through the uncovered window. The forest outside looked different in daylight, but not in a comforting way. The trees were still too close together, their branches tangled like grasping fingers. Fog clung low to the ground, refusing to lift. I packed my bag quickly. I did not want to stay any longer than I had to. As I opened the door, I hesitated, half expecting to find something waiting for me in the hallway. But it was empty. The air outside felt colder than it should have for early summer. I walked toward the office, my footsteps echoing in the narrow walkway. The old man was already there, standing behind the counter with his hands folded. He smiled when he saw me. "Sleep well?" he asked. I stared at him. "Did you hear anything last night?" He smiled, faded slightly. "The rain can make strange sounds," he said. "Someone was outside my door," I said. "And someone else was in the wall. They told me not to open it." The man's eyes flicked to the back of the lobby. Door to door marked private. For just a second, something like fear crossed his face. Then it was gone. "You should be on your way," he said quietly.
Roads get worse after sunrise up here. I wanted to demand answers. I wanted to call the police. But something in his tone made my throat close up. I nodded instead and left. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing at the edge of the forest near the motel. Tall. Thin. Too still. Then the fog swallowed the shape, and it was gone. I did not talk about Pine Ridge Motel for years. Life went on. I moved to a different state. I got a new job. I convinced myself that what happened had been a mix of exhaustion and imagination. But sometimes, late at night, I would wake up certain I could hear slow dragging footsteps outside my apartment door. Sometimes I would dream of a voice whispering from inside my walls. Then, 3 years later, I saw a news article that made my blood run cold. The headline read, "Remains found in abandoned motel in Appalachian Mountains." The photograph showed a familiar sign. Pine Ridge Motel. The article said hikers had stumbled across the place while exploring an old logging trail. The motel had been closed for over a decade. According to county records, no one had owned it since the late 1990s. Inside the walls of several rooms, police had discovered skeletal remains. Dozens of them. There was no mention of a caretaker. No record of a man running the place. No guest logs. No proof that anyone had stayed there in years. I stared at the screen for a long time. That night, I dreamed of room 7 again. I was lying in the bed staring at the ceiling. The knocking came from the wall. 3 slow tabs. I pressed my ear against it. "Thank you," the voice whispered. The doorknob began to turn. I woke up screaming. A week later, I received a letter. There was no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Pine Ridge Motel from the road. The sign flickered in the rain. In one of the second-floor windows, a pale face stared out. It looked like me. Written on the back in shaky handwriting were 4 words. "You left me here." I burned the photo. 2 months passed. Then another letter arrived. This one contained a motel key. Heavy brass. Stamped with the number 7. And a note. "Breakfast is at 6. I booked a flight to Tennessee the next morning. I told myself I needed closure. That I had to face whatever this was. Deep down, I knew the truth. Whatever had attached itself to me at that motel was not finished. The rental car took me along winding mountain roads under a sky heavy with rain clouds. My phone lost signal just like it had the first time. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as the familiar forest closed in around me. The Pine Ridge Motel sign flickered into view. It looked exactly the same. The gravel lot was empty. The office door stood open. I stepped inside. The lobby was darker than before. The brochures were gone. The counter was covered in dust. But behind it stood the same old man. He smiled. "You came back," he said. "Why? What is this place?" He tilted his head. "This is where people come when the road ends. Some leave. Some stay. I saw something move behind him. A shadow passing across the back wall. Tall. Thin. The ones who stay need rooms. He continued. And someone to keep the doors locked. The lights went out. The door behind me slammed shut. And the knocking began again.
The rain had been falling for so long that it no longer sounded like individual drops striking the windshield. It was a steady breath, a low, unbroken whisper that filled the dark interior of the car as I followed the winding Appalachian highway deeper into the mountains. The clock on the dashboard glowed pale blue. 2:37 in the morning. I had not passed another vehicle in nearly an hour. The forest pressed in from both sides of the road, tall black walls of pine and oak rising into a sky without stars. Even the moon had been swallowed by cloud. The only light came from my headlights, carving a narrow tunnel through mist and rain. I told myself I was only tired, that the unease curling in my stomach was just the result of too much driving and not enough sleep. I had left Knoxville just after sunset, hoping to make it to a small town in West Virginia before morning. The map app on my phone had suggested a shortcut through the mountains. I should have known better. The signal had vanished 20 miles back, and now I was alone on a road that did not appear on any of the signs I had passed. The radio crackled softly, then went silent. I reached to adjust the dial, but all I heard was static. I turned it off. The sudden quiet felt heavier than the noise had been. My eyes kept drifting to the trees, to the way their branches bent and twisted toward the road, as if leaning in to listen. That was when I saw the motel sign. It stood alone at the edge of a gravel turnout, half hidden behind a curtain of rain and fog. The sign flickered weakly, its neon letters buzzing like a tired insect. Pine Ridge Motel. Vacancy. One of the bulbs was burned out, so the word vacancy read more like vacanier. The missing letter leaving a gap that made my chest tighten for reasons I could not explain. I slowed the car. Every instinct told me to keep driving, but the road ahead vanished into darkness, and my eyelids felt like they were filled with sand. I told myself I would stop just long enough to rest, maybe a few hours of sleep, then I would be back on the road at first light. The gravel crunched loudly as I pulled into the lot. The sound seemed to echo too far, bouncing off the surrounding trees and coming back wrong, stretched thin and hollow. There were only 3 other vehicles parked there. All of them looked old. Rust stained the sides of a faded blue pickup truck. A white sedan with one flat tire sat crooked in its space. The third was a dark van with no license plate. None of them had lights on inside. The office was a single-story building attached to a row of rooms. A yellow porch light glowed above the door, flickering as if it might go out at any moment. I shut off the engine. The rain immediately grew louder. For a moment I just sat there, listening to the water hitting the roof, staring at my reflection in the dark windshield. My face looked pale and drawn, older than it should have. I grabbed my jacket and stepped out into the rain.
The air smelled wrong. Not like wet earth or pine needles. There was something sour beneath it, something old, the kind of smell you get in abandoned buildings or deep basements that have not been opened in years. My boots sank slightly into the gravel as I walked to the office door. A small bell jingled when I pushed it open.